Hey everybody, my name's Taylor King, and you have somehow made it over to my mini show, Learn a Little. The goal here is to take something that might sound scary and confusing and learn a little bit about it. Today we're going to hear from Jason Mercier, Director for the Center of Government Reform. He's going to talk to us about a phrase we keep hearing float around in the news and the media, a special session. Don't know why I put quotes there. Who gave it permission to be special? Is it really regular session's evil twin brother? All that and more. Let's find out.
All right, good morning.
Morning.
My name is Taylor King. I work at Washington Policy Center. I'm with Jason Mercier, and we are here to talk about a special session. So my first and most important question is, what is a special session?
So a special session is a convening of the legislature outside of their normal term. So our regular session ended back in March, and you have a special session to address unforeseen occurrences that happen, whether it's a fiscal emergency, a policy emergency, something that didn't come up during the regular session, or is time sensitive and can't wait until the lawmakers are scheduled to reconvene. And right now, that would be January of 2021.
Okay, so a special session isn't just called when, hey, we ran out of time for the stuff we were trying to do. We need more time. Like, can they happen at any point during the year, or most of the time do they just happen like right after a session ends and they're like, hey, we could use like 2 more weeks?
And usually they will happen if they ran out of time. That's what we're most familiar with. But there is
Right.
no,
Okay.
that we have had a 1 day special session for the Boeing package. We have had special sessions in the past to deal with unforeseen other policy emergencies that come up. A special session can only be called one of two ways. And in fact, it's only been called one way, and that is the governor calls a special session. And when that happens, it is limited for 30 days, but the governor cannot restrict what the legislature considers. So basically, it's like a brand new session because the governor can say, I'm going to call a special session to do X, but the legislature is not bound by that. They can do whatever they want. So you kind of have to pay attention to everything that maybe didn't get through the previous time or other issues that may come up. And that's the way special sessions have been called. The second way, to my knowledge, has never occurred, and that is the legislature calls itself into a special session. Those are restricted, however. Whatever that resolution is calling the special session, that's the only thing the legislature can consider. And perhaps the reason why it hasn't happened is it takes a two-thirds vote of the legislature to occur.
Okay, so the governor could call a special session, and he has not called a special session, but many people are asking for him to do so. What's the disconnect there? Why wouldn't the governor want a special session right now with all of the budget issues that we're having?
So as you mentioned, there have been bipartisan calls for the legislature from lawmakers for a special
Right.
session call. Now, the fact that they haven't convened themselves indicates there may not be two-thirds support, but based upon what we have seen publicly stated, and we're actually in the midst of a survey right now with lawmakers, and I think we're going to be at least majority support of lawmakers for a special session. Obviously, that's not the two-thirds. So you ask, why has the governor not called one? I can't give you a policy reason. I can give you political reasons, and that being
Yeah.
there's an election coming up in November.
So you think there's bipartisan support. You think that with recent polling, there's over 50% of people that would want to have a special session, but it's not that 2/3. So they're not quite where they can call their own session. That's what you're saying.
It doesn't look like they're going to be at the two-thirds, but I definitely think there's going to be majority support. And I think from the most practical reason why you would have the expectation that the legislature meet now are a couple of reasons. First of all, we've got a cash deficit in our budget. That was just confirmed today by the Office of Financial Management that from August all the way through the end of the fiscal year next June, they'll be running almost $1 billion cash deficits a month. They can't reconcile the
Oh my
receipts.
gosh.
Now that
Is
matters.
that is that a completely normal thing for Washington State, or is that coronavirus related? like
That is
everything else.
very unusual. That's something that happens when you're in a
Okay.
recession that's related to the pandemic. But the reason why that is significant beyond the fact that it means you have a budget problem is that state law requires the governor, if there is a cash deficit projected, to immediately issue across the board budget cuts. That's a sledgehammer. That's treating everything the same. That doesn't allow any discretion, which is
Hmm.
why that same law says the governor has to do this unless the legislature has chosen to address the deficit in a different way. It's to incentivize a special session. But the governor has made it clear he's not going to call one. So that basically, under the law, leaves only one option, and that's for him to issue the cuts. He's not doing it, though.
So is he just going to continue to spend the money he doesn't have? I don't know like what the alternative is here.
Well, and this is where then news today maybe will change the dynamic, because
Okay.
up to this point, the governor said there's not a problem. We have plenty of money. Now we have the official projections from his own budget office saying, no, we're running a cash deficit every single month for the rest of the fiscal year, which under the law either requires him to issue those cuts or a special session. Now, if he's not going to call a special session and he's not going to issue the cuts, that kind of leaves the question, who's going to enforce the law?
Gotcha. Well, it'll be very interesting to see, and maybe we'll get some movement with now coming out with the budget cash deficit. But regardless, thank you for your time, and I guess we'll see where it goes.
All right, thanks, Taylor.
All right, thanks.